morning everyone. Okay, so 10th June 2022, let's see which are the important articles. Look at the first page of the newspaper. Presidential polls scheduled for July 18, right? So from our prelims examination perspective, how presidential polls are conducted, what is the electoral college for presidential elections, who all participate, how the election is conducted, how the, let's say, weightage to different electors, or we can say that the MPs and MLAs is there, and finally in what way the election or counting is done, and finally the president candidate is declared, we can say one here. So we'll let's say see these details from prelims perspective, polity part. Then on bottom side, Rhino Reintroduction, a hit in Assam Reserve. So we are talking about Manas National Park, where the rhinos translocated through Indian Rhino Vision 2020 program, okay, of the government. So the details are mentioned here, how this has led to improvement in the population of Indian rhino in Manas National Park. Along with that, we will also find out the basics of this Indian Rhino Vision 2020 program, and about one horn single, let's say, Indian rhino, this species, and other 5 species, total 5 species of rhino are there in the world. So basics of that will cover from environment section, prelims part. Then come to page number 6, editorial page. Yes, on left hand side 2 editorials are there. On bottom side, ties reset. So India-Iran relations, so Iranian foreign minister recently visited India. So the outcome is analyzed here, why this visit was significant. In the first part it is mentioned, in the second part how India-Iran relations deteriorated, the bone of contentions are mentioned in the second part. All these aspects are relevant to GS2 paper, IR section, mains examination. Right, on top side, messy battle. Again it is in news because of the interference by Delhi LG into the working of elected government in Delhi. So new LG is appointed, Vinay Kumar Saxena. We know about the conflict between past LG and the elected government led by AAP party, right? So this is just having the context, okay, all political aspects are mentioned there. In the past we have discussed when there was conflict between LG and when there was, let's say, Supreme Court verdict regarding it, we covered all this discussion. So it is not at present in news, the conflict largely, only the interference. Why it is in news? Because Delhi LG independently with a, let's say, discretionary aspect had called upon the meeting of Delhi Jal Board officials and gave some directives to those officials. So again it has bypassed the elected government. इसलिए वो news में है. Just you should know the context. ठीक है? Yes. Now on page number 7 is the ban on wheat export good policy. Already we have covered about why the government stopped the exports or banned the wheat export. Recently we have seen the views of minister himself. Okay, he explained why we had banned the wheat export, and this is temporary decision. In near future we can expect that this ban will be surely revoked here. So we will not go into details of that article either. Now on page number 9, text and context page, 2 important articles. The Indian patent regime and its clash with US norms. तो ये new topic है, अब तक हमने कवर नहीं किया है. And you should know that in GS3 paper we have this syllabus topic named IPR, है ना, intellectual property rights. It is syllabus topic. Okay, so we should know it is part of our GS3 paper, economy as well as science and technology. Right, so from that perspective we can expect question in GS3 paper, and the context here is last month the US trade representative, the department in the US had given this report, and once again India has been put on the watch list here for the violation of intellectual property rights in India. So what are these all conflicts? What is the present law that is there in India let's say protecting patent rights. Okay, so we will cover this from GS3 paper, economy and science and tech part. On bottom side, Rajya Sabha elections are going to be conducted. So again, how the Rajya Sabha members are elected, we will cover from polity part, prelims examination, right? Yes. Now come to page number 13 directly. Okay, on page number 13 you can see ISC Bangalore top Indian varsity or university we can say. Okay, so this is QS World University Ranking 2023. You should know the let's say that this is one of the most important or we can say accepted university ranking at the world level. Okay, and that's why it becomes very important that Indian universities and technical institutes like IITs and all those we can say VITs, those institutes, how they fare in this ranking, it shows India's improvement in the higher education sector. Okay, so once again IISc and other IITs, they are among the top 500s. We will find out the ranking. We can say we can use them in essay paper also, and GS2 paper, governance or HRD, when the question relates to higher education. Okay. Fine. So all these are important articles from today's the Hindu newspaper. Let us go in detail one by one. First one, Indian patent regime and its clash with the US norms. Yes, so the context you should know. US Trade Representative said in a report released last month that India was one of the most challenging major economies as far as intellectual property protection and enforcement is concerned. It has decided to retain India on priority watch list. Okay, so this is the major concern we should know. There are, let's say, US has always been highlighting the concerns related to IPR protections in India, और उसकी वजह से ट्रेड इम्पैक्ट होता है दोनों कंट्रीज में. Okay, now Indian patent regime, basics of this we know that we have Indian Patent Act enacted in 1970, amended in comprehensively amended in 2005. Now this is the sole act that protects, we can say, intellectual property rights in India. Along with that we have GI Protection Act also, geographical indicator, that is also part of IPR regime. But you should know that all the patents, all intellectual property rights are protected through this Indian Patent Act. Now originally this particular act did not provide for or did not include patents related to medical aspects or pharma companies, pharma products. But through this 2005 amendment, such kind of protection was given to pharma products also. No, it is 2005 amendment which provides for this, we can say, pharma products to be given as, we can say, patent rights, recognition of patent rights. They are right. Okay, why this was not originally included? Because we wanted to ensure that public health is to be the major aspect here, because when the pharma companies are having patents, they can have very high cost of all those, we can say, medical products, pharma products, and because of that the poor people will suffer, and for that purpose this was not included. But later on we can say that this was included, and that's why here onwards India became the pharma major in the world. Okay, so all these major MNCs, they started producing all their products in India, manufacturing in India, and that's why India became the pharma major in the world. Along with that, we should know, after 1970, after enacting this law, India has also signed several important conventions related to IPR. Now you should know this for prelims examination. Which are these conventions? Bern Convention, Budapest Convention, and third, Paris Convention. If suppose this is asked in the prelims examination that Budapest Convention is related to which of the following, or Bern Convention is related to which of the following, you should know it is related to protection of IPRs, okay, intellectual property rights. Fine. Along with that, you should also know that there are concerns that US raises here. Particularly we can talk about the issue of piracy is there, or we can say that issue of, dummy trademarks are also, violation of trademark is also being done in India. Piracy is very common in India. So all these issues basically are in conflict with US policy, and that's why US from time to time raises this concern with India. You should also know that India has signed TRIPS agreement at WTO. It is WTO's important agreement, trade related in intellectual property rights. Okay, so this TRIPS agreement, we can say very important, because all WTO members are part of this TRIPS agreement. So it is of significance for India also. Now what is this Article 3D of Indian Patent Act? See, this Article 3D or 3 is also important for protecting, or we can say that preventing greenwashing, or we can say not greenwashing, evergreening of patents. Evergreening of patents. Now, why? Because this actually excludes certain types of, we can say, patent claims. What types of patent claims? Suppose there is one material, and let's say particular company says that we have invented the new property of that material, which is already in, we can say, in application. That material is already in application, and suppose the new property is invented by a particular company. That company is not allowed to file that patent unless and until there is appropriate, we can say, mechanism, process developed by that company to convert it into, we can say, any product. Okay. So for that matter, it excludes certain types of, we can say, patent claims, and this is to stop any kind of evergreening of patents. नहीं तो वो क्या हो जाएगा, सारे एक के बाद एक पेटेंट करते रहेंगे. ठीक है.
Otherwise the minor changes also they will.
Yes, they will start giving the patents for small things also, and we know the jugaad in India to protect the, let's say, patents of genuine inventors. ठीक है. इंडिया में जुगाड़ बहुत कॉमन है, right, and that can be claimed as a patent right, and that excludes in this article. That protection is given in this.
Originality of inventor will get affected.
Yes. Now TRIPS and Doha Declaration. Now Doha Declaration on Public Health 2021 was signed by WTO members 2021, and this recognizes, we can say, the intervention by the governments of respective countries for the public health purpose. It also recognizes the need of protecting IPRs of these pharma companies, and simultaneously it recognizes the need of intervention by the government in public health, and therefore the compulsory licensing can be invoked under this. Compulsory licensing, voluntary licensing and compulsory licensing. There are two aspects. In voluntary licensing, what is there? The government can have the voluntary agreement with the company, and there can be mutually decided amount that can be given to that company. So this is voluntary licensing. And compulsory licensing, here the government invokes the provisions of TRIPS.
Without the inventor consent, they will take the...
Yes, and without their consent, basically such compulsory licensing, that is the production or manufacturing of that product starts in the country by the other companies.
Openly they will give to the...
Yes. So this actually deters the, we can say, the इनोवेशन इन द कंट्री, बिकॉज यहाँ पे क्या है कि कंपनी को इनोवेशन करने के लिए कुछ बेनिफिट्स नहीं है, इंसेंटिव्स नहीं है. दैट्स व्हाई लार्जली ऑल कंट्रीज अवॉइड दिस.
Because of they will lose their profits.
Yes, so those countries will not come in India, and we can those companies will not invest into India and let's say manufacture those products.
Recently Johnson & Johnson medicine is not cancer, but after the
Yes.
COVID, it has cancer.
Yes, so this is, you should know, now this is covered in this Doha Declaration also. Now finally the positive steps. Positive steps in terms of, let's say, government has done, WIPO conventions have been also signed and ratified by India in 2017 and 18. There are some conventions under World Intellectual Property Rights or Property Organization, WIPO. So India is trying to align with international standards in IPR protection. Okay, but there are some concerns, and those concerns have been flagged from time to time by US. US has one of the strictest IPR protection regime. ठीक है, तो that's why whenever there are negotiations with any trading bloc where US is involved, वहाँ पे IPR issue इंडिया के साथ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट में आता है. जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल एट प्रेजेंट वी टॉक्ड अबाउट let's say Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity. US announced that India also participated in negotiations. Now US and India will be at loggerhead when we talk about IPR issue. ठीक है, तो ये आपको ध्यान रखना है कि कौन से इश्यूज है इंडिया यूएस में, है ना. देयर कैन बी बायलैटरल क्वेश्चन, bilateral relations between India and US. So good relations are there in defense and other aspects, economic aspect, but what are the bone of contentions or issues? One of them is IPR issue, है ना. Okay, yes, fine. Now moving on, ties reset, India Iran relations. Okay, so this is important. Why? Because Iranian foreign minister visited India, first visit to India by the Iranian foreign minister after assuming the power, assuming the office. Now why it is significant visit? You should know some aspects here. First thing is that recently OIC countries, where Iran is also part of OIC grouping, they criticized India for, let's say, some comments by the members of ruling party on Prophet Muhammad, right? So with that background, you should know that Iranian foreign minister visiting India, so surely our Indian government may have conveyed to Iran that we have dealt with that issue properly, effectively, strongly, we can say. First thing. Second thing, you should know that this visit is just week after foreign ministers of Israel visited India. Last week foreign minister of Israel visited India. So we know that Israel-Palestine issue is there, and that's why Israel and Gulf countries are not having good relations, especially Iran. So how to balance this India-Iran, India-Israel relations? यहाँ पे एक important aspect है. Third thing you should know that yes, International Atomic Energy Agency. Its meeting is going to happen in near future, and this has put sanctions on Iran for its nuclear enrichment program, right? So here also it will seek some kind of strong support from the strong country like India. ठीक है, यहाँ पे ये चीज. Then you should also know that Iran is facing the problem of oil export because of US sanctions on the crude oil export of Iran since 2018, right? So India also stopped the oil import from Iran since 2019 because of those sanctions. Now Iran wants these exports to be resumed, especially at the backdrop of Russia-Ukraine war that is going on. ठीक है, तो already in the international level there is, we can say, high prices of crude oil. The supply of crude oil is less, so that oil export, especially it wants India to resume that oil import from Iran. All these aspects you should know the significance of visit. Now one more important aspect is that our external affairs minister had given straightforward comment after this meeting that if Western countries led by US wants India's imports from Russia to reduce, then it should allow the exports of oil from Iran and Venezuela. समझ रहा है? ठीक है कि अगर वेस्टर्न कंट्री चाहते कि रशिया से हम ऑयल कम करें इंपोर्ट, तो उन्होंने इनका एक्सपोर्ट अलाउ करना चाहिए so that we can import oil from Iran. This is very bold move.
Before stopping one way, you need to show another alternative.
Yes. So why? Because basically US is restricting India's alternatives. US से भी मना कर रहा है, ईरान से भी मना कर रहा है, तो हम ऑयल इंपोर्ट करें भी कहाँ से? आप बताओगे वहाँ से करेंगे हमेशा? नहीं ना, right? So this is a bold statement given by our external affairs minister. Then in terms of analysis, some issues you should talk about. Issues in terms of trade. Trade has come down. 17-18 it was around $17 billion, and this is now in 2022 it is around only $2 billion. Main aspect of trade was crude oil. वही नहीं रहा तो बाकी सब कम हो गया है, right? Second thing you should know is related to India joining new Quad grouping in that Middle East region, or we can say Gulf countries. And what is that? US, India, UAE, Israel. Connectivity Quad, it is being called as, or we can say trade Quad in that grouping. So this is being considered as anti-Iran grouping. जैसे हम इधर वाला क्वाड एंटी चाइना बोलते हैं ना, तो इसको एंटी ईरान ग्रुपिंग बोल के बोला जाता है, एंड इंडिया इज बीइंग पार्ट ऑफ दिस. अगेन इट इज, वी कैन से, कंटेंशन, राइट? थर्ड थिंग यू शुड नो दैट ईरान सपोर्ट टू Houthi rebels in Yemen. This is also problematic. Why? These Houthi rebels had attacked on UAE oil company recently.
Recently, the airport also they attacked.
And in that attack, Indian citizen died. In that attack, Indian citizen died, and that's why India is concerned about Iran's support to these rebels. ये है main concerns हम बोलेंगे. And at the same time, if you had followed news in the past, India's, let's say, investment in Iran has come down, and China's investment in Iran has increased. China and Iran had signed friendship treaty or friendship deal partnership of 25 years. At the same time, Chabahar port in Iran, investment in Chabahar port has been very slow, development of this Chabahar port, and therefore Iran is concerned about that also. Iran wants this Chabahar port to resume and let's say trade with India, and we wanted this port to develop. Why? Because we wanted connectivity with Central Asian countries and Afghanistan also, because Pakistan is obstructing, we can say indirectly, land route. So we wanted to bypass Pakistan and then from Iran to enter into Afghanistan and then to Central Asia, right? So that's why Iran is very important for us, energy security and all these things. Fine? Okay. Then presidential polls scheduled for July 18. You should know some critical statements mentioned here. This can be directly asked in prelims examination. Okay, yes. So it will be held on 18th of July and present president's term ends on 24th July. Okay, the electoral college for poll will comprise 4809 members, of which 233 are Rajya Sabha members, 543 are Lok Sabha members and 4033 MLAs of the assemblies of states and union territories of Delhi and Puducherry. Okay, and the total value of votes will be 10,86,431. Fine. So details आपको जरूरी नहीं है, but that value of vote will be on the basis of 1971 census population figures according to 84th Constitutional Amendment Act. Then the MLAs of Jammu and Kashmir are no longer part of electoral college because the state has been reorganized and the assembly is dissolved. Then each candidate would require 50 members of electoral college as proposers and 50 members as seconders. We learn this in M. Laxmikant basics. The polling would be carried out in Parliament House for MPs and the respective state assemblies for MLAs, with Rajya Sabha Secretary General declared as returning officers for assemblies. Okay. Then electors would cast their ballots using the pen provided by Election Commission as has been the norm. ठीक है? Then a list of members of electoral college would be uploaded on Election Commission's website, updated when result of ongoing elections of 55 Rajya Sabha seats and assembly by-elections are announced. तो ये elections होने के बाद जो है final list जो है announce होगी. Now you should know that political parties cannot issue whip to their members in presidential elections. ये statement exam में पूछा जा सकता है prelims में. Electors in preventive detention would be allowed to vote and those in jail would have to seek parole in order to cast their ballots. ये भी पूछा जा सकता है prelims examination में. Right? So those who are detained under preventive detention law, they are allowed to vote. They are members of assembly and we can say parliament, and those in jail are also allowed to vote. They need to seek the parole request from the jail authorities for voting purpose. These statements are very important. ठीक है, ये NCERT या M. लक्ष्मीकांत में भी नहीं दिया है. This is not given in M. Laxmikant also. Okay? Yes. Now, some other details related to election. We know the electoral college and all these things. So, who conduct the election of president? Election Commission of India. Then electoral college is made up of elected members of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha and state legislative assemblies. Okay? State legislative assemblies of states and union territories. At the nomination stage, the candidates required to file nomination along with signed list of 50 proposers and 50 seconders. Just now we talked about it. Then an elector cannot propose or second the nomination of more than one candidate. This is also important statement. Not more than one candidate. तो हर एक कैंडिडेट के 50 proposers and 50 seconders यूनिक होंगे, सेपरेट होंगे. अंडरस्टूड? यस. ये क्यों लाया गया है प्रोविजन? Why this provision is added? Because earlier so many names were proposed and seconded by one single member and dummy names, okay, जो elect भी हो नहीं सकते हैं, ठीक है, इनको सपोर्ट भी नहीं इतना, वो भी नॉमिनेशंस करते थे. Yes, yes. Now what is the value of each vote and how it is calculated? A vote cast by each MP and MLA is not calculated as one vote. Okay, rather there is larger vote value attached to it and there are differences. You should know that for each MP there is fixed value of vote. For Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, what is that? 708. This can be asked in the prelims examination. But the value of MLA's vote differs from state to state according to the population of that state and number of MLAs that are there. Okay, so total vote value of each MLA differs from state to state based on calculation that factors in population vis-a-vis the number of members in legislative assemblies. Now, according to 84th Constitutional Amendment Act 2001, currently the population of states is taken from the figures of 1971 census. This is also important for prelims examination. 1971 census, and this will change only after the census published after 2026, right? The value of each MLA's vote is determined by, what is that formula for MLA's vote? Anyone? Online students? Population of state divided by number of MLAs divided by 1000. This is the formula. Now population is different for different state, number of MLAs are different for different state, divided by 1000. Okay, so this is how we arrive at, we can say that, final value of that vote. And that's why, like, Uttar Pradesh is having 208 value of 1 MLA, Maharashtra 175, while Arunachal Pradesh is just 8. Now what is required to secure a victory? To secure victory, it is not like let's say first past the post system. Rather, it is fixed quota system. The particular candidate which receives 50% plus 1 vote is declared as winner. Now, how one candidate can receive such large amount of votes? Not possible. And for that purpose, the unique system is adopted. What is that called as? Proportional system with single transferable vote. So here the MPs and MLAs are not voting for one candidate, rather they will write the preferences. They will write the preferences. One first preference, the name of the candidate. Second preference, name of the candidate. Third preference, name of the candidate. This is how the voting is done by MPs and MLAs. And in the first round of counting, all votes of first preference are calculated. If suppose this quota is fulfilled, then that candidate is declared. If it is not fulfilled, then what is done? Those candidates who received least preference, उनके वोट निकाले जाते हैं और बाकी जो कैंडिडेट्स है जिनको सेकंड प्रेफरेंस मिला था उनमें वो ऐड किए जाते हैं. They are added to those candidates who received second preference.
First one is not able to select. Can you take any values?
See here, suppose there are 3 candidates. Okay, 3 candidates are there, and these 3 candidates in the first voting round, suppose they are receiving,
Example 40.
suppose 40 votes, 20 votes as first preference. Now, no one is clear winner here, 50% plus 1. So what is done here? This candidate is rejected completely because least votes are there with first preference for this candidate. अब इसके 20 वोट है ना जिन्होंने इसको फर्स्ट प्रेफरेंस दिया है ना, 20 लोगों ने इसको फर्स्ट प्रेफरेंस दिया है ना, उनके सेकंड प्रेफरेंस किसके है वो देखा जाता है। अगर समझो ये 20 में से 15 लोगों ने इसको सेकंड प्रेफरेंस दिया है और 5 लोगों ने इसको सेकंड प्रेफरेंस दिया है, तो ये ऐसे डिवाइड हो जाएंगे वोट। एंड नाउ टेल मी, सी दिस इज 55 and this is 45, he is declared as winner.
In case of the exchange, 15 here, 5 here, the second candidate will be selected.
Yes, so in second voting, suppose that candidate is getting 50% plus 1, that is declared. That goes on continuing. Even if let's say in second round that is not done, or 50% plus 1 quota is not achieved, then again third voting let's say round of calculations are done. ये बोलते हैं सिंगल ट्रांसफरेबल वोट सिस्टम, एंड दिस इज एडॉप्टेड फॉर प्रेसिडेंशियल इलेक्शंस. ओके, सो you should know that how the calculations are done for presidential elections. Again, it will be news in July month when the elections are conducted, so we will revise that time also. Now the Rajya Sabha elections are being conducted. How members are elected? Again the same system. It is being done by Election Commission of India, who holds the election for we can say Rajya Sabha, Election Commission of India. And in what manner it is done? Proportional representation with single transferable vote. Now who elects Rajya Sabha member? Only elected members of state assemblies can vote in Rajya Sabha elections. Now we all know that Rajya Sabha is the permanent house. It is not it is never dissolved completely, right? It is permanent house. Then the third of Rajya Sabha MPs retire once in 2 years. The third of Rajya Sabha MPs from each state retire once in 2 years, and let's say polls are conducted, elections are conducted for these states. Now candidates of particular party can be elected to upper house based on their party's strength in state assembly. We all know about this. Now voting is done by single transferable vote and in proportional system manner. Same kind of voting is there. Now a candidate requires specified number of first preference votes to win, and each vote has value of 100 for Rajya Sabha election. This is fixed now. Vote value is 100, and let's say specified number of first preference is required. Again, the number of first preference vote required for single MP varies in each state based on the size of legislative assembly and the number of seats for which the elections are taking place. This is very basic, and we read this in M. Laxmikant book, everyone. So for prelims examination there can be question related to it. Rhino Reintroduction, a hit in Assam reserve. Okay, so Manas National Park, we are talking the excuse me. Yes, the rhino population has increased. This is good thing, and we found this from 14th Assam Rhino Estimation Census. UNESCO World Heritage Site and Tiger Reserve is this Manas National Park, and you should know that this reintroduction program, Indian Rhino Vision 2020, which was started in 2005, वहाँ पे ईयर जो है दिया हुआ है ना 2006 दिया हुआ है, जो आर्टिकल में दिया है वो गलत है. It is 2005. Okay, and it entailed translocation of rhinos from Kaziranga National Park and Pobitara Wildlife Sanctuary. From these two, we can say Manas National Park. Okay, now basics of Indian Rhino Vision launched in 2005, and at the same time translocation it is initiative of Forest Department of Assam in partnership with World Wildlife Fund for Nature India, International Rhino Foundation and other organizations. The goal was to increase the rhino population in Assam to 3,000 by establishing new populations in new areas. At present, rhino is found in 4 protected areas in Assam. Which are these? Highest population in Kaziranga, second highest in Pobitara, then third Manas and Orang National Park. 4 are there. Okay, protected areas. About Indian rhino, one horn greater Indian rhino. It is only it is found in India and also known as Indian rhino. It is largest of all 5 rhino species. Then identified by single black horn and grey brown hide with skin folds. It is, we can say, herbivorous animal and conservation status IUCN Red Data Book vulnerable, and CITES Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species CITES Appendix 1 highest protection. Also Wildlife Protection Act highest protection Schedule 1 animal. Okay. Yes. Now about 5 species of rhinos. See, in Indonesia, Sumatran rhino and Javan rhino, they are, we can say that Sumatran rhino has been on the earth longer than any other living mammal, and IUCN status of both is critically endangered. IUCN status is critically endangered. Black rhinos are smaller of 2 African species, that is black and white rhino. They are African species. Then greater one horn rhino vulnerable, just now we talked about Indian species. Now white rhino further can be divided into 2 species, southern and northern. This northern species is critically endangered and only 2 or 3 species are there extinct in the wild. But significant population is of southern rhino. Okay. Now ISC Bangalore top Indian University. So what is this QS rating? It is given by independent organization Quacquarelli Simons, London based analytical institute. Okay. This ranks the international world or important universities of higher education and technical educational institutes, and it comprises of 3 parts: global overall ranking, subject rankings, and 5 independent regional tables: Asia, Latin America, emerging Europe and Central Asia, Arab region, and BRICS countries. Now IISc Bangalore has topped a new leader in QS world ranking in what? It is let's say top ranking in the world in one particular indicator. Okay, so overall global ranking is 155. Overall global ranking is 155. But in terms of citations per faculty, in terms of citations per faculty, CPF indicator, it is first in the world. It is ranked first in the world. This is very good development. Okay, basically in this indicator it evaluates the impact of research produced by universities. It shows that Indian university is top in the world in terms of research produced per faculty or per researcher. Citations per faculty, CPF, and it is perfect score of 100 out of 100 of IISc. Okay, the other institutes like IIT Bombay is now second one in terms of ranking in India. India wise we can say top university, and then there is other overall global ranking of IIT Bombay 172nd, and the third best Indian is IIT Delhi, and then IIT Madras and IIT Kanpur. In private universities in India, OP Jindal Global University is top ranked. Okay? Yes. What should be answer to this?
Sumatran.
Yes, critically endangered species. So Sumatran and Javan rhino, these 2 are critically endangered, and greater one horn rhino or Indian rhino is vulnerable. It is vulnerable. Okay, so answer should be B, 2 and 3 only. Fine? Yes. Any question? Okay.
No, sir.
Okay, let us stop then. Fine.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Welcome to Lukmaan IAS. Study General Studies with Lukmaan IAS for building comprehensive knowledge. GS paper 2 and 4 will be taken by S. Ansari and other papers will be covered by renowned faculties. Live classes are as effective as offline classes. The classes are highly interactive in nature. Your doubts and queries will be addressed and there will be dictation of notes. In the last 10 years, Lukmaan IAS has set up a niche in the field of UPSC guidance.